there, we are continuing our read aloud of Medicine Walk by Ardith Mayer. Yesterday we read chapter 9, where Burr Henderson continues to trudge across that Arizona desert looking for water, for food, for civilization, for anything. And he is to the point now where he's so heat-stricken and exhausted and starving, with no water. He is passing out. He is hallucinating. He is seeing his father, his dead father, but that also helps him to keep going. His father in these hallucinations is encouraging him. He's also remembering Nachito's words and Charlie, his friend, and so he's continuing to use ways that his father has taught him and that he's learned from Nachito and the Apaches. We are now going to be reading in chapter 10. At the very, very end of chapter 9, he got to the stream bed, but it was dry. So here we go, chapter 10. This is where it starts out, calls Thinking It Out. I dropped onto my knees and scrabbled frantically with both hands, shaking my knuckles on the stones, tearing my fingernails. The ground wasn't even damp, no matter how I dug. It had been a long time since the last rain. I went back onto my heels. At least I was in the shade, and coolness had crept into the bowl between the mountains as the sun went down. I searched among the round pebbles in the creek bottom until I found one twice the size of a lifesaver, then scrubbed the grit off onto my t-shirt. It was so ragged and dirty, Mom wouldn't have even used it for cleaning rags. When I put the stone into my mouth, a bit of saliva began collecting around it. As the glands went to work, it was like Nachito had said. It helped, but not much. I looked up the shaded curve where the creek should have been running. There was no hint that any dampness was left anywhere. The plants had grown along the stream, and they were dried to straw. I could waste precious time searching for water, but I had the gut feeling that I wouldn't find any. And I surely didn't have the energy to waste. Besides, I still had a swallow or two left in the bottle. I shook the container without opening it. For the last day or two, I'd managed to carry a mouthful for a long time before swallowing any of it. Now I had control of things when it came to quenching my thirst. As for hunger, the thought of food made me faintly nauseated. Except for the weakness in my legs, the swimming sensation in my head, that no longer bothered me at all. I crouched there sucking on the pebble, my mind very busy. It was going to be tight. I still hadn't a clue as to where I might be. I knew I was well east of my original location, but as I didn't know precisely where that was, it didn't help much. And what with the blackouts and walking on autopilot, I might have wandered all over the map. Yet I still had some strength, a little energy if I was careful. In this situation, Nachito would probably stroll on home and go dancing tonight. I wasn't that lucky. The strenuous training the old Apache had was lacking, despite my time with Charlie. I creaked to my feet and looked up the slope, waiting on the other side of the valley. An easy one this time. It slanted gradually up toward a cap of boulders that glowed red in the sunset. If I could make it up there, I'd spend the night in that clump of rock. I should be able to see quite a distance. Maybe there would be a light of a ranch, or at least a house. Maybe I could see a road or a cow or something. I felt something staring at my back. Turning slowly, I stared behind. A cougar stood there, watching me with interest from the cottonwoods. It was smaller than the first, I thought, more gray than tawny, and I stared back at it. I wasn't afraid, not at all. I had to worry about too many kinds of death to feel anything about this. I didn't move. It was as if my real self was floating several feet above where my body was standing. I was watching what happened, seeing the boy and the cat staring at each other in the twilight. My mind was mildly curious. Nothing more. The animal gave a low rumble. It wasn't threatening. Curious, too, maybe. I saw it turn in its tracks and stalk away among the cottonwoods. Only then did I crank up enough breath to utter a long whoosh. I went up the rise in record time, my adrenals finally coming to attention. At the boulders, I sang out to them, "Impulse power, all the way!" The tumble of huge stones was warm from the sun as I dropped to the ground and leaned against one. That was good. It was now getting very cold again. It seemed as if I were either getting roasted or frozen. No happy medium out here. When I had my breath back, I looked around and then climbed to the tallest spur of rock to look better. There wasn't a light to be seen, except for a glare against the sky that had to come from a town. A reddish light, it shone against some high cirrus clouds. Over there, then, that was the way to go. I drew a long mark in the dust with an arrowhead pointing in the right direction. Lying with my feet close to that mark, I knew I should be sleeping. But I was thinking again. That cougar. It had to be a different one, not the same I'd seen so far to the west. "No single beast is the sign," came Nachito's voice in the light breeze. "When you have need, the animal appears. That is your proof. All that anyone should need. He is your guide and your protector. He will kill you in his single animal shape, if that is how it turns out. But if you pay heed to the things he tells you, he shows you, warns you about, then you can survive." Those words came straight out of my memory. Nachito had spoken them to Charlie, there in his little house with me, all ears, sitting beside the table with the family. I wondered sleepily what Nachito would name me after my medicine walk. When I got home. If I got home. Surely a cougar should put some zip into my name. I yawned, almost swallowed the pebble, and spat it into my hand. I put it carefully away for future use. My mouth felt like an old boot that had been left outside for years until it cracked into dusty strips. But the pebble had helped me some. I wouldn't risk swallowing it. It might not do my insides any harm, but I wanted it for tomorrow. It was just the right size and shape. I leaned against the warm rock, curled my feet, now feeling half frozen under myself. Suddenly, I was asleep. That is the end of chapter 10, chapter 11 for tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.